Welcome to Unit 11 of EDSE 510. You will notice as you review the course schedule that this is our final unit in the course. Congratulations. Unit 11 is a one-week unit, and the only graded assignment for this unit will be a discussion board. So we'll continue with the traditional deadlines for that discussion board. You can refer to the course schedule to find those dates for the initial post as well as for the minimum of 2 responses to others which are required by the final day of the unit at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And please do communicate with me if you have any concerns about being able to post in this discussion board on time. But it seems like we're all on a good track to wrap things up. Our focus for the unit content will be on students with physical disabilities, traumatic brain injuries, and other health impairments. So you'll recall that in previous units we were focusing on other areas of eligibility and specific areas of impact for students with IEPs receiving special education services, and these are the populations that we'll finish up with as we complete this Unit 11. So you'll notice that Unit 11 is broken into several parts, and that's not because one needs to come before the other, but just because it is organized by content area. So Part 1 is work with students with physical disabilities. You'll see a written introduction here with some different pieces of information regarding disabilities that students may have that could relate to this topic. So there is a website linked for you that you can review, and it is a resource for you to expand your knowledge on physical disabilities in students along with other disabilities. It is a website for work with adults, but the information is also relevant for P12 or even in transition settings. There are several videos for you to review here, and these are videos focused on students with physical disabilities, and this is part of a documentary. So take your time taking a look at those. There is an inspirational TED Talk linked here as well. So if you choose to check that out, you can review that down at the bottom of that page. More information here is provided for you regarding work with students with physical disabilities and some things to keep in mind regarding what these students may need to be successful. So depending upon the area of impact, you'll see different statements here regarding some challenges that students with physical disabilities might experience and strategies that we can use, and those are these numbered points, in the classroom and across academic settings to support learning. These could be some good ideas even for accommodations that you could develop and embed as you're working on that IEP. And again, in the end, here we conclude with achievement of academic potential. So obviously these are best practices that would be relevant really for any student, but some of the points here in these numbered lists are made particularly to support students with physical disabilities. And there's a PDF for you as well. You can review some strategies there. More information and another PDF regarding some things you could put in place that might be useful for students with physical disabilities depending upon the disability and the impact in the school setting. There is a link here as well regarding the camera mouse you can check out. So this is a free tool that can be utilized. And there are videos on the page. You don't have to download this, but if you choose to, it is something that allows you to control the mouse just by moving your head. So for a student with a physical disability, this could be very useful. Part 2 focuses on students with multiple disabilities or with traumatic brain injury. And you'll notice that there are some options here for you. There is a handbook attached and there's an excerpt below. You can review whatever you choose here, but I would recommend this page here in Canvas as a good solid place to start. Information regarding what can cause a traumatic brain injury. And then as we move into the impact, we're considering these different areas and how they might influence students in the school setting. Students who might then be struggling with attention or memory, processing speed, executive functioning, and several different areas where we might see impact of a traumatic brain injury, things that a student didn't necessarily struggle with before. And down below you'll see the attachments that are referenced up top for the content that you can review. But really there are so many impacts, as we know, that can come with traumatic brain injury, and some of those can be emotional or behavioral. We might see impulsivity, we might see problems with mood, frustration, or anger, and we may see problems then with interpersonal relationships as a result of that. And that could be going on in the home setting, in the school setting, with interactions with adults, or interactions with peers, or both. We may see difficulties with speech and communication. We might see a lack of stamina or more frequent fatigue episodes going on for students. And ultimately, this would then also affect academic skills. And we might see problems with retention. We might see problems with memorization of new information, recall, connections, all sorts of different things that we might see for a student impacted by a traumatic brain injury. So there's a video here for you, as well as some other resources from the CDC website related to traumatic brain injury, and particularly concussions in youth sports, which is a pretty popular topic for discussion in the field. So just as we discussed for students with physical disabilities, there is a list here of instructional strategies which may be most useful to support students with traumatic brain injuries. This would be anything from just specific and frequent reminders to the option of summarizing content as you're diving into a new lesson, going back to that previous learning and kind of activating that prior learning, that memory for the student, and supporting that. Not requiring oral form as the only format for assignments and announcements. So give those visuals, obviously break the task down into smaller parts. As mentioned before, these are best practices, universal design for learning, options, multiple modes of expression, flexibility in the classroom setting. That would be relevant and applicable really for all different kinds of students, different kinds of learners. But the strategies have been identified as particularly useful for students who are impacted by traumatic brain injury. So as we move into part 3, we'll focus on other health impairment. And there are a lot of different things that could qualify a student under health impairment. You'll see a list here with some links. What you'll often see for eligibility under OHI for a student who has an IEP would be ADHD. And that's a pretty common one that you'll see falling under other health impairment. However, there are many other kinds of health impairments that could qualify a student under OHI. It does not have to be synonymous with ADHD ever, but you will see that come up rather frequently in your practice. There's information here, some statistics, taking a look at these other health impairments and how they can impact youth in the United States. We do have some links here as well, a website and a fact sheet regarding other health impairment, what this might look like in the school setting. And then again, you'll see instructional strategy suggestions for best practices and ways to support students with other health impairment. You will see a reference here as well to ADHD. As mentioned, that's a common type of other health impairment that might bring a student to eligibility for special education services. So with more strategies, we'll also see a reference here to assistive technology and what might be most useful, particularly for students impacted by ADHD. There are some websites for both school and home that are included here, along with a link to some more strategies and practices, and that is in a PDF form. There's a resource for you to review everything a teacher needs to know about the law, and that's included for you here under modules in our course. So if you go all the way down to the bottom, it's a good one to check out. You'll see Unit 11, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, and then you'll see resource for review right there. So that's something that you can download, and that will then lead us to our final graded assignment, which is a discussion. So from within the 3 categories that we just discussed and went through, parts 1, 2, and 3 of Unit 11, you will select one of these disabilities. And when we say subcategory, that could be, for instance, under ADHD, or excuse me, under other health impairment, it could be ADHD. Under physical disability, it might be a particular type of a physical disability or a diagnosis. And then from there, you will post a website link that identifies teaching strategies for students in the category that you selected of that eligibility for special education services. And this would not be something provided to you within the unit. This is something that you want to come up with yourself. So do some investigation online, find a reliable source that you can share. Then you'll summarize the information. You want to use your own words here. We're not just copying and pasting. And you will cite in 7th edition APA format. And you will share how this information will be useful in your practice and how you would collaborate with parents or guardians of a child who is eligible for special education services due to the disability that you have selected for this discussion. So we really want to talk about not just basic ideas of collaboration with families and special education, but particularly for a student who is impacted in these areas, X, Y, or Z, whatever you do select. What kinds of collaborative measures would be particularly helpful, and how could we put those proactive steps in place to build and maintain a solid relationship that we've established with that family? So we definitely want to identify application opportunities for professional practice, how you might use this either now or in the future or both as you work with students. So what we have to keep in mind is even if you're not currently working with a student who is eligible under the category that you select for this discussion, chances are if you remain in the field for a while, you probably will do so. So this is a really good opportunity for you to investigate something that you're not familiar with or haven't researched before, and to develop some helpful websites and resources in your toolkit that you can reference both now and in the future in your practice. And that is the requirement for Unit 11. So we'll want to make sure to post early and often in the discussion to receive full credit. So it's a minimum of 3 posts. The deadlines can be found in the course schedule document. And congratulations on reaching the end of the course, the final unit. Have a great week.